Melissa, can I go back to when you joined the forces? Was that always the long-term plan to join up?
It was. I get asked a lot why I joined the military, and the answer is pretty short and sweet, is that I love our country, I love America, and the red, the white, and the blue, and I wanted to kind of give back. So that was kind of always the plan.
And did what happened on 9/11, did that just exacerbate that feeling that you had?
You know, on September 11th, I was already in ROTC in college, so I was already planning on going into the military. That day in particular, it changed the whole world, and it changed a lot of our lives, but it really... our instructor that day said, it's not a matter of if you deploy, it's a matter of when. So, I was wearing a uniform very proudly on American soil, but I knew I'd probably wear it on foreign soil as well at that time.
99.9% of us will never be in that kind of a conflict situation. We've got no idea what it's like. Can you just describe that in the months leading up to the accident that you had or the injury that you had, did Iraq feel like it might sound a silly question, but a seriously dangerous place to be?
So I was only in country in Iraq for 3 weeks before I got injured. And in those 3 weeks, we had just gotten there. Obviously, we knew of the horrible things that had gone on there, and too many soldiers lost their lives and the injuries. But until something happens to you or an immediate, platoon or an immediate soldier that you're friends with and you almost feel invincible. You ride around these streets, you just think that nothing's ever supposed to happen to you. So when it actually does, obviously it kind of everyone kind of wakes up a little bit. So, does it feel like it? Sometimes when you're going through the bustling city of Baghdad and you see Iraqis everywhere and, you're not sure if they want you there, if they don't. Sure, it can seem a little bit dangerous and a little bit terrifying at times, but, you just kind of do your job.
Can you take us through the events of that fateful day, April 13th, 2004, what your memories of it are?
Yeah, so I remember most of the day, and it was a day just like any other. I was a convoy commander, so I led convoys through Baghdad and Iraq, so I was on the road a lot as it was, and woke up early, had our briefing, got into the vehicle. I was in a Humvee. It was early on in the war. I had no doors on the vehicle. We had no armor. We just kind of did what we had to do. And we went out of the gate, and about 10 minutes into the ride, we went under an underpass, and this big boom, big explosion goes off, and vehicle swerves, and I look up and the windshield's all cracked, and we ricochet off of a guardrail. We ended up crashing into this Iraqi woman's house, and everyone started to get out of the vehicle because we had gone through this situation in training and what to do if this were to happen. And I undid my seatbelt. I started to get out, and I looked down and saw a bunch of blood, and that's when I called out. I think I'm hurt, and lucky for me there was a combat medic a few vehicles back. He heard me calling out. He ran up. He pulled me out of the vehicle by my bulletproof vest, by my flak vest, and pulled me out of the vehicle, laid me on the ground, and what I thought was maybe I broke my leg. I had no idea what was going on. I was awake through it all, but I never thought that my leg was gone. I know now that it was. It had been severed from the blast, from the guardrail. Who knows? But he started to administer first aid, and not just that, but really saving my life. I was losing a lot of blood, and got a tourniquet on and got me in the back of this big vehicle that brought me to the nearest aid station, where I got into a helicopter and flew to right in central Baghdad to an American hospital, and kind of rushed into a life-saving surgery and woke up and found out I no longer had my leg.
And how long did it take you to come to terms with the fact that you had lost the limb at the age of 23, 24?
Yeah, I've always been a very optimistic person, and very early on, I really accepted it early on. I knew it wasn't going to grow back. Maybe someday you can regenerate limbs, but at the moment I knew that wasn't the case. I knew that it was kind of pointless for me to go back and say, well, what if I did this, or what if I had a door? Because it didn't matter, because what had happened had happened. I was really thankful to have my life. When I got to Walter Reed Army Medical Center, it really put things in perspective, because I was surrounded by so many other soldiers that were much worse off than I was, with missing multiple limbs or eyesight, traumatic brain injuries. So I was really, I couldn't say poor me anymore, because I had 3 limbs. I had my eyesight, I had my mind, my heart, and I was really one of the lucky ones. I had my life.
Because I saw quotes from you at that time saying, as you said, you were one of the lucky ones. I think a lot of people reading that quote and having read, your situation would find that kind of a paradox. But but clearly it wasn't.
Not. I mean, and I think until you're put in that situation, until you're put in a situation where you're missing a leg, but you're surrounded by hundreds of others that are missing both of their legs, or they can't see anymore, or they have these, these unseen wounds of war, these traumatic brain injuries and PTS. I mean, you don't think about it until you're in that situation. But then you're there and you realize how lucky you are. I mean, it's just, and I had my life. I mean, too many gave that ultimate sacrifice and I didn't, or I gave a leg and I was still able to live and to move on, and that's what I was focusing on.
Well, talking about moving on, how long did it take you after that to decide, right, okay, I'm still going to be competitive in sport and I want to compete at the highest level I can? How long did that process take?
So I lost my leg in April of 2004, and in early 2005 I learned about the U.S. Paralympics. And when I was younger, I dreamed of going to the Olympics as a gymnast, and I wanted to represent the country in USA. And as soon as I heard about the Paralympics, it was just an immediate, it's got to happen. Somehow I have to do it. So, I mean, no greater honor really than, representing a country I defended over in Iraq, and just one that I was, so fond of. So it was a dream from that point on, and I decided to give it a shot first in the sport of swimming. And I ended up competing in the 2008 Paralympics in Beijing in swimming, and then turned to triathlon the following year. But why not dream big? Why not live for those that gave that ultimate sacrifice? And
well, you didn't just compete at the 2008 Paralympics. You were the flag bearer for the closing ceremony.
Yeah.
How proud a moment was that for you?
Oh gosh, there's you can't even put into words how proud of a moment that is. Just the whole journey, kind of from Baghdad to Beijing. And athletically, I did not do well in Beijing, and it was this just reminder that a lot of time, it sounds so cheesy, but that the journey is much more important than the destination. And for me at that moment, that was the case. And to carry this object that I was so proud of and just so honored to carry into this sold out bird's nest in Beijing and just represent my country, it was a moment that I actually relive it in my mind quite often.
So why the switch then from swimming to triathlon?
Why not? I swam. I knew I was a decent swimmer, and I kind of started to run a little bit. And then the Challenge Athletes Foundation, based out of California, invited me out to do a triathlon. And I thought, well, this is crazy. Who's going to want to swim, bike, and run? But I went out there. I did it. I crossed the finish line, and I was hooked. The challenge of all three sports, the different prosthetics I had to wear, being on the same course as able-bodied athletes. I just really fell in love with the sport.
Well, you were world champion 2010, 2011. Did you expect to be so successful?
Oh, no. And you know what? The sport has come a long way. So, it's the most competitive now that it has ever been. And every year it gets more and more competitive. But, I never thought that would, no. I never imagined myself on top of a podium hearing the national anthem, gold medal. It never, no.
And the goal now, presumably, is Rio.
The goal is Rio. Yep, it's a road. It's a road to Rio, and we are on that road right now. So I have to continue to improve and to do well, and but the ultimate goal is Rio next year.
I know you won a couple of awards in the military. You won Purple Heart, didn't you, and a Bronze Star. Are they important in the sense it kind of says to you there's a gratitude from your country for the sacrifice that you made? I
think so, and it's just it's a. I feel like I've been very fortunate. Everyone I come across is just very thankful for, that I've served my country, or that I went to Iraq, or that I gave a limb. And, maybe those represent it. Sure. But it's also more about, in my mind, when I'm out here on the race course, if I am having a bad day or if I'm having a tough time on the run, it's more of signifies what I've been through to get there. So you think, you've been through this obstacle that you never expect, and you get Purple Heart, Bronze Star, but then you move forward. It's not about the Purple Heart and the Bronze Star, it's about what you do after that.
And you work in prosthetics now as
well,
don't you? Can you tell us exactly what you do?
Yeah, so my day job is in the field of prosthetics, so I fit other amputees with artificial limbs. So someone comes in, whether they lost their limb to disease, whether it's cancer or some other type of disease or injury or trauma, they were born without a limb, and I actually fit them with a prosthetic device to help them walk or use a hand or whatever it may be to help them kind of regain their life and their independence.
And tell us about this group that you started in Chicago, Dare to Try. What's that about, and why did you found it?
Yeah, so myself and two other friends, Carrie and Dan, the three of us co-founded Dare to Try Paratriathlon Club in 2011 with the goal of getting athletes with physical disabilities kind of in the Chicago area into the sport of triathlon. So it has grown remarkably in the past couple years. we have a very much a grassroots level. We have where we serve youth, adults, injured service members. We have, training year round. We have coaching. We provide the necessary equipment for someone to actually get into the sport and really finish it and to see what they're capable of. The motto is one inspires many, and a lot of our athletes are out there. And the reward of seeing an 8-year-old who is in a wheelchair get out and do a triathlon and seeing the impact it has on both her and her family, it stays with you and it kind of keeps you going. So it's just, Dare to Try, it's becoming a very, very well-known name nationwide, and I'm just very proud to have helped start it and just to see where it's gonna go.
I was going to ask you that in terms of whether you had a message for people watching, whether it's triathlon or anything else, to be honest, if they have lost a limb through illness or injury or an accident, what are the benefits they can get from taking up sport as a disabled athlete?
The benefits, there's no end to the benefits. It's amazing. Not only do you have this self-worth, you gain self-worth on the things that you're still able to do, you gain self-confidence, you become more physically fit, you become, you're out there with other athletes that don't have disabilities and you're inspiring them. It's just one thing after the next. I proudly live a life of sport, and I encourage anybody to do the same.
And just one last question, after Rio,
Yeah.
What are your kind of goals? How far ahead do you look? What would you want to be doing in, 10, 20 years' time? Because you've achieved so much in such a short space of time already.
Well, I'll tell you that I am a mother to 5.5-month-old Dallas Patrick. So last November I had a baby boy, so that's kind of added this whole new aspect to my life and to training and just a whole new level of motivation to get out there. And if I'm going to be away from him, I might as well do well or do my best. So really just what it is, I don't know. I want to keep having these big dreams. I want him to grow up with his mom. I want him to be a dreamer as well. So I want him to grow up with his mom as a dreamer, and for him to kind of follow and do the same, and to think that there's nothing he can't accomplish and no dream too big. So what it is, I don't know. We'll see how, hopefully the journey to Rio goes as I'd like it to, and then we'll see how Rio goes. And I don't know. The world, there's so much left to do. I don't know.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.